friend, Ned SCHMIDT. And Ned, your two publications, what are those publications again, Ned?
The Value View Gold Report and the Agri-Food Value View. And that is the name of my websites also.
All right. So, hey, we're looking at gold right now. It's taken a bit of a slam. It was really down pretty heavy today in the morning, but now it's off $2. Silver is showing like pretty incredible strength right around that $16 the ounce range. What the heck is going on here?
Well, you have this unbelievable bullishness on U.S. stocks. I got an ad the other day on Twitter from one of the major banks, who I will not mention because we do not do free commercials.
Never.
But it was never. It was their survey on millennials. Now, remember who these people are. These are juveniles that get their news off Facebook, Instagram. I think the comedy show is a news program. They're surveying millennials in the beginning of 2017. They were roughly 45% cash, 25% stocks. At the high in the U.S. stock market, which occurred in January, they're now 25% in cash and 45% in stocks. So this is a market made up of juveniles. The U.S. stock market has not made a new high in more than 100 days, which it hasn't done since 2008. Now, the stock market has been held at a high level. At the same time, gold has gone down. So looking at, we've talked about this before, the ratio of the gold price to the S&P 500. Only 2 times since 1945 has that ratio been this low. And each of those 2 times was a tremendous time to buy gold. So we're at one of those points. Now, Gary, the really bullish thing that I'm seeing is what the gold stocks are doing. Now, I'm looking at a chart of the GDXJ for the junior ones. And I've used a chart that goes back to about October. That index made a major low in December. It went on to make a series of lows in February, let's call it. That low was higher than this December low. The most recent low, which is about $32, is above that low. So we have rising lows. But most interesting is that despite gold being bogged down here at about 1255, the GDXJ went above its 200-day moving average last week. And it continues above its 200-day moving average. The gold stocks are telling you gold is at or near a bottom. Now, we have a similar picture in the GDX. The only difference is right now it's just below its 200-day average. When I looked at it this morning, the 200-day average was 22.60, and the stock was at 22.41. So it's right there at it. The stock market, in most cases, is smarter than a lot of it. And the GA in these ETF prices are telling you being bearish on gold is the wrong position. And I think investors, if you don't have some, now's the time to get some. And I know there's a lot of people with gold. I don't like the price of my gold.
Yeah.
It's not the time to be worried about it. I know there's a mass frustration.
Oh, yes.
But this is not the time to be worrying about it. If it bothers you, don't look at the price. Only look on Friday. That might be the best solution. Now, the other thing that's surprising is we've had 7 interest rate increases. The dollar is totally distorted in pricing. But, Gary, we haven't had that Lehman Brothers yet.
Mm.
Somewhere out there, guys and gals, there is still a Lehman Brothers lurking. And when that happens, it's going to change this whole environment for gold.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So you think it's we're going to have another Lehman moment?
Oh, of course we will. We always have a Lehman moment. We've never had an economic cycle without a Lehman moment. It's guaranteed. When we let economists run a country's economic policy, that's a mistake. And what's interesting also, Kerry, is Yellen broke the mold. Greenspan and Bernanke only looked at one variable. That was the stock market.
Mm-hmm.
They felt if they kept the stock market up, everything would be all right.
Yeah.
Yellen dropped that. And she said many times, the only two things we're legally allowed to look at is labor market conditions and prices. And Powell, the current chairman, he does not appear to care what the stock market's doing. And they've pretty much said that they're not going to adjust interest rates based on the level of stock market. They don't care.
Right.
Then you go over to President Trump. It was about, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, Monday. They got a question about if the stock market fell dramatically, would you stop the trade correction with China? And Trump said, no, that's not the important thing. So I think the stock market is one of the most scary points. And the day the Lehman Brothers event hits, then gold will explode. Gold's poised like it was in December when it ran over $100.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, gold is poised, waiting for that event that will allow it to run $100.
Right. So we're getting closer, huh?
Yep.
All right. So what about what's happening with trade between the U.S. and China? I get the feeling we're not getting the whole picture. China just can't pick and choose where they're going to get food from, right?
That's the point. And the math, apparently nobody does any math anymore.
What's that? What's math? Can you describe it?
China has put a tariff of 25% on U.S. soybeans. They also put a giant tariff on U.S. pork. But the soybeans is the critical one. China consumes 118 million tons of soybeans. Now, let me tell you, that's a big pile of everything, Jerry.
That's a lot of soybeans.
118 million. They only produce about 14. So, in essence, they're net importers of about 100 million tons. Now, what do they use it for? It's primarily used for animal feed, to feed all the chickens and ducks and hogs and cattle.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what that embargo has done is they've quit buying U.S. soybeans. And the simple solution that Wall Street has chosen, and the juvenile traders in commodities, is they will just import them from Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
Brazil is our big competition, soybeans. Now, Brazil produces 117 million tons of soybeans.
And they sell them
but
all. And they sell them all,
yeah.
Right? It's not like they're sitting on the side of the tracks rotting out. All of their production gets sold already.
Yeah, well, they consume 47 million themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so they only have 70 million tons of soybeans. And if they sold every one of them to China, China would still be short 30 million tons
mm-hmm.
of soybeans. They cannot replace their soybean consumption from Brazil. And it really was a stupid move to put the tariff on soybeans. You
Yeah.
put the tariff on something you don't need. I mean, the Chinese can live without Buicks.
Or
But they
garbage.
can't.
What about
Yeah.
U.S. garbage? They don't want it anymore.
I thought they quit taking our garbage.
They did, like the beginning of this year, the end of last year. I think that's what really set it off. The nerve of them not to take U.S. garbage. I mean, what did they think they were doing?
They're just not appreciative, you know?
Yeah. Hey, and, we could send them more.
We
So
probably got some spare garbage, I would imagine.
we could always find more garbage to send to China. I guarantee you, Ned. We could always find more.
So basically, the Chinese, they put a tariff on the wrong commodity.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, they should have put it on garbage or Buicks or something like that. Not something you need. And I think anybody that's expecting Trump to back off on tariffs didn't see the morning news. Our trade imbalance with China set a record in the first 5 months of this year with a $153 billion trade deficit with China. Now, if you own gold, you just assume he didn't do anything, because that would ultimately send gold to the moon. But I think the stock market's thinking it's over on trade tariffs. They better think again.
And the Europeans, the German car companies, have done an alignment with China. I guess they see that that's the future of their market, but they're making a deal with the devil. They have to give all their technology over to China, all their IP, in order to get a foothold in the market. And they're still going to get whacked in the U.S. with tariffs because the EU's not backing off of tariffs, the 25% tariffs on American cars. Not that we're going to sell any more there. I don't really believe that's going to happen. But the point is that it's a trade barrier, and it's very blatant, and it needs to go.
That's most definitely. I mean, but they don't seem to even be willing to talk. And the problems with Canada, I don't know where their heads are in Canadian government. But
look what's happening to their dollar there. It's getting slammed. They're going into recession. And if Trump really does put the tariffs on for everything else that he's planning to do, it's for the cars, particularly American car companies produce 1 million cars a year. In Canada, only 12% are purchased by the Canadians. The rest are exported here. That is going to put them in a world of hurt.
That one of the Canadian economists did a study recently of which province, what is the vulnerability of each Canadian province to U.S. trade. Ontario, which is, for those of you who don't have a map handy, it's right north of Detroit, is 49% of the revenues in Ontario province come from exporting goods to the United States. There is no entity in North America more vulnerable than Ontario province in Canada. So they really should be talking nice to Trump instead of being mad at him.
Well, no one ever accused of man boy Justin Trudeau of really having any extra brain cells floating around there, you know?
No, that's not the problem.
He doesn't have a surplus.
I think he's the reason the Canadian dollar keeps going down.
Yeah.
I have had friends over there from Canada, so I don't want to say anything too bad, but he's a dud.
Oh, he's worse than a dud. He's completely superficial, hollow, and incapable of higher thought. And that's why they're in this jam. And they wanted him, so they got him. They're talking about snap elections there because he thinks they're going to become even less popular, if that's possible, his group. And if they do a snap election, probably would be the best thing for Canada because they will dump him probably in the New York Minute.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
God, how do the countries get themselves into these messes? Look what's going on now with England, with the UK, and Brexit. They tried to neuter it, and they got a full-scale revolution on their hands. Old Theresa May.
I can't sort out what's happening there right now. I mean, it sounds like May has thrown her towel in on Brexit.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if that's right or not.
Well, Boris Johnson quit, and Nigel Farage looks like he's going to take over UKIP again. So if those two things happen, I think she's toast as well, because, I think the people had enough of it, and they've seen since they passed the Brexit measure, right? Nothing bad has happened to the British economy since they passed Brexit. And it's actually gotten better, and they're just I don't know what's going on in the world here, Ned. But one thing I do know is we still got to eat, and the world's 7 billion inhabitants are expecting to be fed dinner tonight and breakfast tomorrow, right?
Right, and hold your gold.
And hold your gold. So where it all heads, I'm not quite certain, but it's definitely getting interesting here. And you got to wonder, it's the question, it's the old thing of the debtor owning the bank, right? It's like,
right,
all the world's surplus production and a lot of the non-surplus production comes to the United States. And a big chunk of the world's food, I don't know what percentage of it, but certainly for grains and soybeans and meat and so many other products, it comes from the U.S. So what are they thinking here? That's what I'd like to know.
I don't know. I mean, China and the EU have clearly taken the wrong path. I mean, in the EU, their hatred of Trump clouds their judgment.
Trump derangement syndrome, another example, right?
That's true. They have it in spades over there. In China, I just don't understand, Kerry. It was the wrong commodity or good to put the tariff on.
Mm-hmm.
They picked the wrong one because it damages them about as much as it damages us. And that makes no sense. They should have picked something else.
Yeah.
When the real solution is they should have agreed to simply buy more of something from us. But I think China goes through these periods of nationalism. And I think she saw that as the right way. But I think the nationalists who in China sometimes get irrational. There was a burst of nationalism in the government, and for some reason, they threw out common sense when that happened. And I don't know, she, after the last big party meeting, looked all powerful. He looks now like he's been weakened by these nationalists. And that's scary because she has some common sense.
Oh, for sure. And look how the country's performed under his leadership. That's the key.
Right.
That's the key. So what about the U.S. here? Is a tax cut doing us any good, Ned? We any better off?
Of course it is. Of course it is. Everybody's got more money in their pockets. I mean, people talking about the November election, they're wrong. I mean, I saw the poll this morning, Kerry, for Florida.
Yeah.
And
right.
Nelson's down 3 points.
I heard 5 and 6. I heard 5 and 6.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and the other thing is a sitting senator it's not over 50%,
he's toast.
is a loser.
Yeah, and he's 3 terms under his belt.
And despite that, Scott has more name recognition.
Yeah, like this guy has been floating around here for how many years? For
18.
18, and these commercials on TV, they date him back to the 1976 Pinto, since he's had a government job. And it's really quite entertaining to watch here, because it's like, Bill who? I don't know this guy. Who is this guy? I never heard of him.
I'll bet if you and I went out tomorrow and asked our neighbors who Bill Nelson was, they wouldn't know.
They only know because of Rick Scott's commercial. That's the only reason they know who he was. Otherwise, if they saw him at the Publix, they would think he was just a guy who bagged groceries, right?
Probably.
Or he maybe handled customer service, took refunds on bad potatoes and stuff like that, right? I mean, this guy can't be senator. Who is he? I mean, hey, I've been here for 6 years, Ned, and I don't know if he ever even drove by Palm Beach County. Where does he live? I mean, does he live in Florida? I mean, all of this, it's absurd, and we're being a little sardonic about it, but think about it, man. Who the heck is the guy?
Nobody knows. He's a mystery senator.
He's a total mystery, but I guess we'll find out if he ever starts running ads. He started running ads. Rick Scott's got more money, but yeah, that's just one example. That was one they expected to be able to hold on to. I think the way I'm reading the tea leaves is they're going to lose at least 5 to 6 Democrats in the Senate, and the whole Supreme Court vote. All those guys in the red states, the Democratic senators in the red states, are going to get swept away when they oppose Kavanaugh, because it's going to show that they're all for Chuck Schumer and not for their own states, not for their states' values. A place like West Virginia, it looked like Manchin was kind of climbing out of the abyss. And now this comes up, and it's got to set him back substantially.
Yeah, he has no choice but to vote for him.
Yeah, he's got to vote for him. And then that will agitate the base of the insane base of the Democratic Party. So either way, he's toast. And the same with Heidi Heitkamp and who else do we have? Donnelly. He's from Indiana, a state that went overwhelmingly for Trump, and Tester. All these people, once they vote for Trump's nominee for Supreme Court, they're toast. Anyway, we're not a political publication here. We are a family publication, so let's not talk about obscenities like politics. Nobody can be happy about it. So, Ned, just tell us again your publications, because I can't remember them today. I'm having a senior moment.
Thinking about Democrats does that to your mind, Gary.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, you can't even imagine. Like normally when people get older, like judges, what happens is that, we get older, our brain shrinks, brain cells die, so we become more liberal. But in Kennedy's case, in the last year, the opposite happened. You look at Nancy Pelosi, you look at Schumer, their brains are shrinking, they're becoming more liberal. I mean, it's just a proven fact.
I didn't know you were a biologist.
Yeah, I study everything. I am a Renaissance man, Ned. So no topic avoids my perusal, my inspection, and my investigation. And I draw conclusions, right or wrong. But it seems to me it's the only thing that can explain Trump derangement syndrome.
That's right. That's right.